Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one ring, let we rule them all. Hope people remember your towel. Get your Ulu feathers and your needler guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the big tank. To the big tank. The Rocky Mountain big tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.
Your One of Us Doesn't Have Very Good Lighting sized podcast.
Yep. I've actually lost 2 lights. This one and the one right behind me. And I'm noticing that they are all dying closest to me. All the rest of the lights in this room work.
Interesting.
It's obviously because they don't want me to be well lit.
I suppose.
That is clearly the problem. Just saying.
Well, at least the good news is you still have 3 lights. Because there's 5 lights total.
There are 4 lights.
There's 5. Now there's 3.
There are 4 lights. We will now hang you up.
Yep.
So,
hi, Brent.
Hi, Brent. You guys noticed that Elon Musk is once again in the news?
Why? Gosh, it's been like a few years now. He's been just like crap
every day in the news.
What's funny
but
is
apparently he's gone on a rant about Disney leaving because Disney left X, and his whole rant is pretty much well, you know what? If you're going to be evil about stuff, then I don't want you here in the first place. And I'm sitting there going, wait, what? Because their whole thing is we're leaving you because you're not saying things that we like. And he's mad about that. And I'm like, I thought that was what every company did. We even have a phrase called vote with your dollar. If you like, this is a primary function of capitalism. And he's mad about it?
Yeah. Well, he's mad because he's the victim.
Right. And I'm like, okay. I know. But but there are people who are rallying at this. Like, yeah. And not on the same side of the people who have been rallying in the past about this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the political left used to rally about this because this was, of course, capitalism gone wrong. This is
so should his followers, like his rabid followers, be called like muskrats?
There you go. That might not be a bad name for them.
Last thing I saw was someone posting a thing about him saying, "I'd rather break my leg than see Taylor Swift perform at the Super Bowl or whatever the sports thing was." And I wanted to make a meme of that girl saying, "Why not both? Break his leg and see Taylor Swift play." Muscovites. The Musketeer. Oh wait, that's
the Musketeers. No. Unless it's tears spelled T-E-A.
Oh yeah.
Like Alex is miming down there every time we say Musk is mad. Alex goes,
I just have to cover myself on my bed and house made of money.
Right, I know. Like we just made the house out of stacks of $100 bills.
I can't bully Disney because they were worth more than I am.
Tears. We've coined it.
Yeah, what I was just thinking earlier about, sadly funny that years ago I used to think Musk was like cool because I knew very little about him. It was one of those people like, he's like Tony Stark but in real life, and it's like, wait, the more you find out about him, he's not.
Well, I mean, I do, and it's like a lot of things that I often do, which is I'm pretty good at separating parts into different locations. So, for example, I admire a lot of the things that he has managed to do. He has wielded his charisma in a way that has allowed us to get SpaceX pretty much spaceborne, which is cool, and managed to do pretty much an amazing number on electric vehicles, because EVs have been in our purview many times over the last 125 years, but they keep getting squashed by the oil companies and things like that, and just people in general, because all these complaints that you hear about EVs are not true, but it's the same complaints you hear every time EVs try to take the forefront, which has happened actually quite a few times. And so it's fascinating to me that he's managed to actually make something that broke a 120-year problem for us as a culture.
Well, it's the money, I think, more than charisma.
But his personal life is just it's a train wreck.
Mhm.
And I mean, I think that Will Wheaton has him pretty pegged on the, he's striking out because people who are hurt other people. And I'm thinking that's pretty accurate.
Well, his ego's hurt, so he's going to be all complaining about it.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. But it is fascinating to me to see somebody complain about an obvious, very straightforward function of capitalism, especially somebody who considers himself to be a businessman,
Yep.
Just finding that fascinating. That's all. Because that is one of the negative functions of capitalism. It doesn't mean I hate capitalism. It doesn't mean I, disagree with capitalism. I'm not even saying any of that. I'm just
communist.
Right? I'm just saying that is a standard function of capitalism, is that you must kowtow to your investors. That's the way it goes. It's always been that way. So there's nothing different about that. And I don't see, but he's like, the fascinating thing about it is he's pivoting it. Like, he's trying to make it sound like, if you're going to be evil, you can be evil, but we don't want you here. Whereas I'm like, but you're just not doing what Disney wants you to do.
Well, see, I'm taking my ball and going home because you won't play by my rules.
Right? I mean, like, okay, it's fine.
Didn't he just do a thing where he was arguing with the he was getting complaints from the Anti-Defamation League about white supremacist advertisements on Jewish channels.
Right.
And instead of going after the Anti-Defamation League, he went after some other smaller, not as well funded, not anti-Semitic group. I mean,
yeah. I mean, like, the guy is clearly not firing on all thrusters. You know what I mean? Like,
he has and has always been a douchebag, and I have never bought into his hype.
Like I said, admire what he's done. I don't admire him.
He did. I mean, sure.
For the person that I am, he did a lot of things furthering causes that I appreciate and approve of.
The privatization of space. Okay.
Well, no, actually, I hate to say this, but there's a place for privatization of space, and there's a place for the socialization of space. Both have a real world thing. You can't just sit there and say it shouldn't ever be in the hands of private industry because we're capitalism. NASA only has X amount of dollars, and it's at the whim of the government, which constantly thinks that NASA is a what do they call those? NASA is a entitlement program. So it depends. It has a place for it, and frankly, SpaceX can afford to fail faster.
How much money did SpaceX get from the government?
The what?
How much money did SpaceX get from the government?
Quite a bit, because they don't need to. They don't need to go through Congress for a lot of that. NASA is a big ticket item. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, but why is Musk getting government money and not NASA?
So they're just doing the same thing that the Pentagon does, contracting money out to private industry, who then who then develop things to then sell us back stuff they develop with our money.
Yep. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying
You're saying you're okay with it.
I'm saying I've come to peace with it, and that's a little different than okay with it.
Okay.
Because that's
So did he actually have anything to do with the founding and development of SpaceX, or did he just buy it
Nope.
like he bought
he bought
like
it and then
like he bought
publicized it.
Tesla? Yeah,
Yeah,
so
just like Tesla. He bought it and publicized it. He
so he
has
didn't actually
no
develop anything. He's just a marketer.
right. Exactly. He is a marketer. However, this is a world where the loudest voice gets the most money.
So anybody else who's good at marketing.
Yep. Anybody
just
else
done
who could have done it could have done it. And I
Okay.
would have been
Hmm.
just as admiring of that. I mean, I'm not. It's one of those things. It's
You're
like,
just glad they're spaceships.
yeah.
So
I mean, like right now, the SLS versus the Starship program, I actually have higher hopes or higher expectations just on the technical side that the Starship program will make it to Mars first. Because the SLS had to be hamstrung so many times to make budget that it's not really working as well as they want it to. And that's a problem, you know? So it's one of those things. I could sit there and root NASA. I mean, I definitely always root NASA.
Mhm.
But if it was just NASA, we will get to Mars sometime in maybe my child or grandchild's lifetime. You know, SpaceX has put us at least in a little bit of a space race. I agree with For All Mankind. For All Mankind, that TV series on Apple, the premise is that we would have made it to Mars if Russia hadn't backed out, if Russia hadn't failed.
Mhm.
You know, the secret NASA. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's the same thing with electric cars. We almost had electric cars in 1970 during the oil crisis. But rather than give us electric cars, they squashed the electric car program and fixed the oil crisis instead. And it was like, oh, okay, but an electric car has far fewer parts. It doesn't require as much maintenance. It is easier to use and easier to build in general. It's a simpler machine. So, but it keeps getting squashed over and over and over because it can only do 80 miles. Most of us drive only 60 miles a day.
It got squashed because the people with the entrenched power structure and development structure and manufacturing structure squashed
Exactly.
it because they didn't want to change. They didn't want to
Right.
pivot. That's why it got squashed.
It did. But I'm saying that the reason it never got forwarded or pushed forward was because nobody was willing to override that. That's, I mean, it's not like the situation right now is any different. Our manufacturing system, all of our structure, everything like that's the same today as it was in the 70s. And frankly, the big car companies have been fighting hard and struggling against Tesla and all of those for a long, long time. I mean, they finally are slowly coming around, but even Toyota, it's a great example as to watch how Toyota struggles with this. These electric cars are starting to show up on the scene, and now the average user has them and can see that they're better. And even with that, Toyota is still doing the, well, no, we'll just keep staying with the Prius, which is a hybrid, because we don't believe that there's any future for electric cars. And Toyota's falling way behind. Hyundai is beating the crap out of Toyota, which has never happened. And it's because Hyundai said, oh, cool, electric cars, we'll make this entire run of them and relatively cheap. So it's one of those things. It's like it needed somebody to get in front. And Tesla did. You know, whether that was Elon Musk's doing or could have been P.T. Barnum's doing. P.T. Barnum's another good example. the guy was brutal. You know what I mean? Like the way he treated his circuses, the way he did things, that was horrible. And stayed as a mainstay of circuses for 100 years with us abusing animals and abusing people and making fun of people who had genetic disorders, or you know what I mean, like things like that, all of that. But P.T. Barnum was good at selling, and if your world is a capitalism, you know. So yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with it or say that it's awesome or that I'm even really kind of okay with it. I think I'm at peace with it, and I think that's probably the best I can offer. So everybody's gone silent. So
I don't see a difference between peace and compliance and okay with it, but I'm just trying to find the difference in the words, because I know you mean something different. I'm just having trouble picking up on what exactly it is that's different there.
I'm at peace with my mother's death.
Your mom
does not necessarily mean I'm okay with my mother's death. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing I can do really to change it. And
so the Elon Musk problem is to say it sucks, but there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
At peace. Okay.
That's what I kind of think. I mean, personally, I'm not like the world's awesomest fan of capitalism to begin with. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to leave us.
I got called communist thinking on Facebook, which I found hilarious because people were debating about proxies in Magic the Gathering. And I said, I don't care if your entire deck is photocopied printouts and that. I just want to play against you. And if your budget is restricting your creativity in your deck building, I don't want that to be an issue. I want to play against your creativity and you as a player, not your budget. And someone's like, that's communist thinking. And so I'm like, no, communist thinking would be, I want everybody's Magic cards to be collected by the government and then equally redistributed to everyone else. I'm more of a socialist, as I just want people to have what they want type thing.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a democratic socialist myself, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I can not be fond of capitalism and still go buy food. You know what I mean? Like,
because you're living in the system, and unless
I live in the system, I still pay my rent. You know, I still buy the food. I buy toys that I like. You know, that's pretty much being at peace with the system. You know, I've come to an agreement with it. You know, may not like it.
You should have timed this about 7 minutes longer, and then we could have rolled right into our commercials with capitalism. But
talking about
as it is, I don't want to jump the gun, so we got 7 more minutes here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's a good question to ask, the difference between at peace with it and okay with it. Mm-hmm. Because when Alex says you're okay with it, that sounds like a little bit more, that has more of a, I think it's a good thing.
You'd vote for it.
Right? Well, even vote for it, maybe. I don't know. Because I don't know if I necessarily feel like I'm in favor of it. If we had a blank slate and could run our country any way we want, I certainly would not recommend this pathway. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of wondering if does that address what you're kind of saying there, Alex? I'm just wondering.
No, I just want you to feel bad. I want you to feel bad for knobbing on Elon Musk when he's a complete fucking wanker.
But what do you?
I want you to feel bad for feeling that, for being okay with that tension. I have to live in this system, and so I do these things.
Well, what Guy's struggling with is he wants to see a space program, and he hasn't gotten that. And then this dick comes along with a lot of money and has the space program actually doing something. And so it's one of those things where it could be worse. He could be like,
it could always be worse,
doing genocide crap. And then you have to be like, well, I guess the space program is going to have to suck.
From profiting from the system and the money that he got from his fucking parentage, that he hasn't basically done that. The system does that.
Folks, I mean, do we need to bring up Werner von Braun? I mean, like the entire Saturn V program. The entire Saturn V program, all of it, everything went to the moon. The entire thing was by Werner von Braun, whom is questionable as to whether he used Jewish slaves when he was in Germany.
Yeah.
Because he was working for the Nazis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I understand that American power is built on blood.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
It was
but
back then too.
But I'm not gonna say I hate the entire Apollo program because of it. That actually that's a real thing. If you look at anything, Ford Motor Company, Ford supported, Henry Ford supported the Nazi program.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So I mean, like, does that mean I should never buy a Ford? Does that mean I should never agree
But
with
you never buy a Ford, guy.
I know I don't buy a Ford anyway. I mean,
no,
but
yeah, we as the products, as the people we are today, our distant ancestors are the ones who were the most bloodthirsty, crush everybody that they possibly could people.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
And the question really is, this is coming back to something that's been on Geek Tank before, which is, it's like the same thing with quoting Bill Cosby. You know, was Bill Cosby funny? Yeah, he was hysterical. Can you quote him? Now it's a little bit dark, right? Because everything he said has this black spot on it.
I haven't done this yet, but I've got the idea that now what I should do is just steal his material and not give him credit for it.
Nice. But so it changed the way that we have thought about space. So you didn't want to go to the moon till Elon Musk said that you could?
No,
sorry, I'm talking about the comment. I'm sorry,
yeah,
I'm being Mr.
So
Edgelord.
you're talking about Brent. So Brent says, since the early 70s, no one has put a person on the moon. Since Musk started working towards space, we've started talking about going back to the moon and even going to Mars. Within my life, he has changed how we have thought about space. And that actually I concur with. And especially as somebody who has been a fan of NASA, like I have been, NASA had gotten to the point where it was like, we'll get to the moon someday. Maybe we'll get to Mars someday. But right now, it's not going to happen. And there was no drive to go to the moon. There was no drive to go to Mars. There was no drive to do anything but send probes. It was far cheaper to send probes in NASA's point of view, and especially since the biggest problem NASA has to run into all the time is if somebody dies. If somebody dies, the entire program comes to a screeching halt, even though space is still a frontier and dangerous. And none of the astronauts who have died would have wanted the program to come to a stop. It does. And so it is far safer and cheaper and easier for NASA to send little probes all over the solar system. And what Brent's saying is true. There's a certain amount of something that we can't do until we're actually there. There's no way we can actually do something. The probes can't be fixed once they've been launched. So there's nothing you can do to repurpose a probe and make it do something else. But a human can. And that's the thing he's saying. And I agree with him.
So
him and Branson with Virgin Galactic changed that.
So the original space race was about international prestige.
Yep. Wasn't even really about anything.
Yeah, it was about international prestige. Mm-hmm. It was a way to not say, let's keep on killing each other. But also, by the way, these rockets, if I can reach the moon with it, I can totally kill the shit out of you.
Right.
Just as an aside, we're not going to say that part out loud.
I won't even deny that.
Which is why, North Korea getting a satellite up, suddenly they can actually land a payload anywhere. I get it. So, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of American hegemony, but I get it. And money and power. So now we're talking about exporting capitalism to the stars.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that.
As opposed to what?
I'm okay with probes here and there. I'm okay with doing those things and perhaps getting people up. I mean, I
You're
understand
not
that
wrong, Brent.
capitalism is the economic system. Yes, that's exactly international prestige. Sorry,
Right. The original reason for the
I
space
used
race is a dick measuring contest.
I used the poli-sci friendly term.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so Elon Musk, he wants to go to Mars and be alone, and all that, but it's like, I'm not really okay with exporting those ideas, though I'm very little power to stop it.
Well, sure. And it's back to the thought process of how much do you compromise to do the thing? Because we're never going to get to Mars based solely on whether science can push it. Because science isn't gonna. Science can't. Science has been begging for us to get to Mars. Science has been on its knees with its hands clasped together praying. And there's nothing that science can do to get anybody to move. They've been asking and begging since the 70s, and nobody's gone anywhere. We haven't gone back to the moon. We haven't gone back to Mars. We haven't gone anywhere, and we won't. So knowing that that's the case, knowing that we will just sit here.
Since the 70s, gosh, it's almost like that's a blip in the eye of human history.
It is a blip in the eye of human history. But it also, I mean, what was the statement that Jim Lovell said? Because somebody had asked him on Apollo 13 and said, what do you think about all those people that say that now that we've already gotten to the moon, we don't have anything else to do? And he was like, well, what if no one else went back? What if no one else went back to the different locations that they went out to? What if we all just decided to stay in our little countries and just be there forever? I mean, really, my top priority kind of sits around the idea that we're all here, all of us. One asteroid, and that's it. We are done. Everybody on Earth goes away. It doesn't take a whole lot to wipe us out. And that's really what I'm worried the most about. Because yes, is it a blip in human history? Sure. And the asteroid that hit in 2053 that wiped out every soul on the planet when they had the ability to go somewhere else, but didn't because they couldn't do it exactly right. That's the problem I've got.
You know what problem I got?
Is your sponsors.
That's right.
Right? Okay, Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, the Massage Wizard who just joined us, because there's a new Massage Wizard who's joined us, and your mom,
who's
Massage
also pretty
Wizard,
good.
You can find all three of those guys at
Conventions
all around. Usually you find the Massage Wizard. He has a little wizard hat and he does massages, so it's kind of cool.
He massages the wizard hat.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, your mom gives pretty good massages too, by the way.
Just saying. We're just saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think this is part of to me, it's the same question. You know, it's like, where do you draw the line? With Bill Cosby, it was pretty clear for me where I drew the line. I didn't need to quote his humor enough. There wasn't enough of a need. There wasn't any real desire for me to do that, to override what he had done. So I just stopped quoting him as much as I possibly could, you know. But when it comes to things like forwarding the human race, I'm kind of the opinion that short of actual slave whatever, I think any method to get us to the next planet is so we can set up a colony so that we can get over the 65,000, 70,000 person line, which puts us at a point where at least the human race could continue, is a forward motion. One could argue that capitalism is somewhat of a slavery thing. So that becomes sort of are you good with how far down this do you want to go? You know, because I can see where you're coming from. I don't necessarily disagree with you.
I find your arguments of an asteroid could wipe out the human race to be the odds are astronomically low.
Whoa!
Oh, that's kind of funny.
The joke was meatier than the last.
I mean, to be fair, we have a 1 in 64 million odds every year, which increases.
Never tell me the odds.
Right? I mean, right? Because like the last time we had a big asteroid strike the Earth that caused massive death all over the place was 65 million years ago. So
they're still around.
So
they're hyper evolved and in stealth mode.
They're chickens.
We eat the
dinosaurs now.
A couple weeks ago at Galacticon, I ran a Q&A for an author, Carrie Vaughn, and she had brought up stuff about space, about how the human bodies just don't do well for very long in space. So living on Mars probably would just be a one-time generation because they wouldn't be able to reproduce quite so well. And
yeah, she was talking about how complex it was and difficult it was to have children
in space.
Yep.
In space.
Since liquids do weird stuff in 0G.
Yeah, but it's not 0G on Mars. So
well, but I mean that's one of those things where it's tricky to do, and I don't know. It's how much support is a colony going to need from us? Because we're a long way away, I think, from having a sustainable city. You know,
right.
we could have a hippie commune on Mars. That won't
self-sustainability.
Yeah, and then start getting the inbreeding.
Yeah, you really got to read Seven Eves, guy. You'd love it.
We read which one, Alex?
Seven Eves. I've mentioned it to Guy before in private. Seven Eves by Neil Stephenson. Guy would love it. It's a good book.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally switching tracks here. I had completely forgotten that in season 2 of the TV show Fargo, it has Bruce Campbell in it, portraying Ronald Reagan.
Oh nice. Wow, that's wild.
I know, and it's and I missed it because it's foreshadowed in season 1 because on a television in the background, they're doing one of Reagan's old movies in black and white, and they redid it with Bruce Campbell as Ronald Reagan, but because it's in the background and it's so small, I didn't catch that at all.
That is wild.
I know.
Wow,
that is awesome.
But knowing you're a Bruce Campbell fan, I had to pass that on to you.
Yeah. I also want to acknowledge what you're saying, Alex. It's not like you're not wrong, and it's not right. Like I'm not. I mean, I'm disagreeing with you, but at least I'm trying to disagree with you with logic rather than just, I hate you.
That's cool. I accept your hatred. But quoting Venture Brothers. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like we're a virus with shoes. Yeah. And so, okay, COVID, yeah, anything could happen. Duh.
Vampires.
Except death. Accept it. Now, if you want to make some different steps, that's fine. But accept it. And do you want to have a humanity enslaved to Elon Musk's progeny on Mars? Not particularly.
Do you want ants? Stance. That's how you get ants.
That's how you get ants. I'm rewatching Archer, so that hits especially well. Classic misdirection.
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's like. I feel like it's interesting what odds we play in these discussions, because I feel like the odds of us all being like enslaved by Elon Musk's prodigies are pretty slim. The odds of us being hit by an asteroid are pretty great, whereas you feel reversed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like Elon Musk starting Mars colonies and going to live on Mars. Hasn't he said that he hates people and wants to live on Mars away from people?
Well, so that's not why he's going, but okay. I mean, really, honestly, Dr. Sagan's been saying this since the 80s. It wasn't just Dr. Sagan, it was Dr. Drake. I mean, there's been a number of people who were not crazy billionaires who've been talking about the idea of populating another planet so that we don't have to have everything sitting on one ball.
Sure. So old Earth can be a shithole, and the rich people can go to another planet.
I mean, that's also true here. I mean,
yeah, it is. And so if you keep on propagating that same ideas, that ideology, then that's what you're going to get. And honestly, I mean, at that, if it's going to be more of the same, no, I'm not for it.
Yeah, but what if it isn't?
So you think Elon Musk and the heirs to the ideas of Musk of corporatism and authoritarianism are going to change their minds? You think that's a high probability?
So that question goes a little further. Do you think it will ever change?
Yes.
If so, then it could change there just as it would here.
Okay.
I mean, if not, then it's not going to change there or here. And I guess my thought is I have faith that we are in a forward motion societally. We are taking steps backwards, but I think we're taking more steps forward. And I have a faith that that is occurring. Just watching over history in a larger, broader field, we are moving forward more steps than we're taking steps back. Are we taking steps back? We are. But we're all moving forward in a, I mean, if you just look at all of the output of our world, we are far more literate. Humans are far more literate than we've ever been in history. We're healthier than we've ever been in history. We are living longer than we have ever been in history. There's a lot of things that are moving forward. More people are free today than have ever been in history. As in, like, literally not being whipped and beaten and stuff like that they are today than there has ever been in history. So one can argue that capitalism is still chains, and I don't disagree with that. But I also feel like we are moving forward and getting rid of these things slowly, but we are. So, yeah, I think that's the difference, is that I feel like it won't matter how we get to Mars. Once we get there, it'll follow the trends of the society that it's in, whether that be, which would be human history. As long as there's communication between the two worlds, they will follow our trends, because it's communication that's causing changes in society.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I see that.
And it's okay if that's not necessary. I sort of feel like that's my tinfoil hat. I do feel like that maybe I'm a little too Trekkie on that, because Trekkies have always been sort of hope for the future sort of people. So I'm totally cool with the idea that maybe I'm just a little out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if the corpos take over space, then they eventually, hopefully, people will rise up and fight against it and overthrow it. I'm with you.
Yeah. That's my thought. I also think that if it's not going to be that way, it won't make any difference whether, if that's not our future, it won't make any difference whether we stop space or whatever. Hope for the good, prepare for the worst. Anyway, I do agree with what you're saying to some degree. No disagreement there. I see what you're saying. I understand it.
Alex's basic premise: Elon Musk has ever been a complete wanker.
Not going to disagree with that one ever. I mean, I wish I could say that I like Elon Musk for the kind of person he is, but that's not going to happen.
I just thought, okay, so to step back into the time machine, I always thought it was funny that someone was like, he's like Iron Man, but in real life. And I'm like, he got his monies from his parents, like all the other rich douchebags. And he just
besides,
buys shit and like renames it, and then markets it to people. That's not Iron Man.
No, Iron Man sold weapons, but then he became a good guy.
Oh, so let's go to some geekery. That's actually why I hate the Iron Man movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate it philosophically, because I'm gonna stop making weapons, except for this one weapon that only I have access to and can decide who I'm gonna murder all around the world with. Try and stop me. You can't. I'm like, I don't think that this is quite the change in morals and ethics that you think.
And that
Right.
was like the plot in
And
2.
then I also hated the fact that in the movie, just the storytelling, we got like a 5 to 10 minute long montage of Tony Stark learning how to use the Iron Man suit. But then when he had to fight a bad guy at the end, that guy can totally use it just fine. I'm like, God damn it. I would have liked it better. Like, I'm going to get you. Ah! And he flies off into the fucking like bay in the ocean and then like springs out and like can't get out and drowns. I'd be like, yes, that would have been great.
I agree with you. Actually,
I'm like,
I
come the
remember
fuck on.
watching the Iron Man movie and thinking the same thing, going, I don't know if this is the moral you think
Right.
it is.
And actually, on a completely petty note, and I understand, especially at the time, they didn't know how much well it was going to do. They wanted more money. They had to get funding, so they had product placement. I want a real American burger. Get me Burger King. I'm like, oh.
Weren't you tortured enough already?
I know, it's like, you're a fucking billionaire. You have a chef on the limo making you food. What the fuck, dude?
Right?
It's like, Jesus wept.
Clearly, he was brainwashed while he was there,
Right?
because the
You'll
terrorists were
love
also
Burger King.
funded by Burger King.
You'll love Burger King. The second movie, I only watched
Was it-
once, and
I-
yes, eating hot shit's better than eating cold shit. So, but
Well, I can't remember
so
which one it was, but it was
audience. I'm responding to a message. Burger King is better than McDonald's. Sure.
Yeah.
Getting
well,
punched in the face is
yeah.
getting better than punched in the dick. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, one of them, that was the whole War Machine thing, was the government was saying, look, why do you only get this type thing? So they did kind of do that in Civil War. They were talking about the whole abuse of power thing. So I think at some point some of the writers are like, hey, we need to point this out because you guys did this, but
We at least need to address it. At least
they need to address it a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
I never watched the third one. The second one, that was the one that I thought was pretty much trash, except for I actually liked. Well, one, there's like the scene with Whiplash in prison, and they're like, he has to give him his shoes. I just remember the Venture Brothers. It's like, give me your fucking shoes. Still want to give me your wallet. Still want to be a supervillain? Yeah, you stole my shoes and my wallet. It's like, come on. But but one thing I did like in one of the Whiplash scenes, it was like they're like, you had no chance of beating Iron Man. Why did you even fucking try? It's like, I just need to show that Iron Man could get beaten.
Mhm.
And I did, motherfuckers. And I'm like, yes. I like that. That was good.
Mhm.
I
And-
find it funny, though, that now that you kind of mentioned that about Iron Man, I'm like, huh. I'm like,
Irony Man.
yeah, now that you mentioned that, I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
It didn't go over as well as you thought.
Yeah. It's like, it's like, so I'm actually going to go. We have like 12 more minutes. I want to talk about some other geeky things.
Go for it.
Okay, yes,
Um,
please do.
Yeah.
But first, thank you for engaging me in that discussion. That was
Thanks
a
for
cool.
engaging me, though I was being a little bit trollish. I appreciate it.
No,
Because
you can
I have
troll.
been
It's fine.
drinking.
That's
So,
perfect.
in my ongoing desire to kind of give my child a nerdy, geeky foundation, I attempted to show her The Lord of the Rings,
Uh-oh.
Fellowship of the Ring. And she liked some of it. It's cool, Brent. I get it. I admitted it. I called myself out. You have no power over me. And she was kind of digging a little bit, and then we had a little talk beforehand. I'm like, you know what? This was made 20 years ago. It was based on books from like that was written in the 50s and came out in the 60s. So there's not a lot of people of color. There's not a lot of women in it, but it's still kind of foundational for high fantasy. Pretty much everything that you've seen in fantasy has been influenced at least a little bit by Lord of the Rings. We should watch it. And I think she's just a little bit either too young or it's just a little bit too old and old-fashioned honestly, we were watching the extended editions. Of course, we're at home, so we can pause it, get snacks, go to the bathroom, make popcorn.
Right.
Um,
You're not
but
stuck
she,
like you were in the
once
theater.
we got to the second part, she really did lose a lot of interest, and so that's cool. We'll try again later. However, I did get her interested in watching the X-Men cartoon from the 90s.
Right.
And we had a conversation about that too. I'm like, yeah, the show was made in the 90s. And Lauren's like, I watched the show as a teenager. I'm like, yeah, so did I. And it's like, it's all the men are really muscular. All the women are got big butts and big breasts. It's kind of it's honestly kind of silly how little diversity there is.
Yeah.
But she's been engaged. But I said, many times stories are allegories for other things. Lord of the Rings, as much as Tolkien denies it, can easily be read as an allegory for World War II.
Yeah.
And the immediate post-war. X-Men has always been, or at least since the late 60s and 70s, has always been an allegory for not only puberty, but also racism. And so let's watch this and kind of engage with it and think about it in these ways.
Yeah.
And she's been liking it. So, yeah.
Yep. A few years back during COVID, since they were doing the charity karaoke thing and they couldn't do it, they did it as a video thing, music videos. And so Tara and I, because what it is you make a video and then people vote on the videos with their dollars, and the dollars go to charity. And so Tara and I made a montage of all the old songs from the animated cartoons. So Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Wonder Woman. But we got, and I was like, as I was putting it together, I'm like, I got to come up with lyrics for X-Men because there's no lyrics to that song.
There's no lyrics to it.
And so I came up with my own lyrics for it. So, and of course, I can't remember what they were off the top of my head now, but it's just every time they get to the dun dun dun, it's X-Men. You just say X-Men.
You're right.
But that was stupid fun.
Yeah.
It's out there on YouTube somewhere, I think.
Oh, crazy. Somewhere you don't have it like saved and shit, dude.
I don't like watching my own stuff.
I never look back at
Never look back. All I see is a horrible actor doing horrible acting stuff.
That's when you're watching me, though.
Yeah, well, that's your half of the ass and my half of the ass, and then Jeff's full ass right in the middle.
Right.
Because we really did half-ass that movie. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boy. But yeah, X-Men 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like there was a Deadpool one episode. I feel like they actually had Deadpool appear in it, but I could be misremembering.
I never watched it regularly, so I mean, we're watching it now. We'll see. I'll be sure to report.
Yeah. Which that's on Disney? Or...
Yeah, the X-Men 90s show is on Disney, and Futurama. Does Hulu have all the Futurama seasons, or just the new ones?
It has all of them.
Okay. Then right now, the kiddo and I are watching Bob's Burgers. And pretty much every episode, I'm like, so what did you think about that episode? Did you get these jokes? Let me tell you some of the context.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, Futurama was really cool. I'm happy to show her that. That has a lot of really cool things to say.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll probably never go to Simpsons. It's so easily dated.
That's one of those weird things that one of my kids, it's like, any free time he has, that's the show he wants to watch. It's like his filler, the way that Star Trek is Guy's filler. When Guy's just drawing or doing something, he just puts Star Trek on the background. Taron does the same thing. He just puts Simpsons on. And he quotes the crap out of it. I'm like, dude, you got to watch some Futurama. It's better.
Simpsons is what's on in the background. Yeah, I did watch the first episode of Legion.
Oh, yeah.
And I told you about that. I really enjoyed it. Cool. Troy asked me if I noticed the stuff going on in the background while the character was hanging themselves. And I said, I noticed something was happening, but I was really distracted by the really hot guy trying to hang himself. Yes, I'm weird. Don't judge me. I did watch the half of the second episode last night, but I was like, I'm way too tired. I got to go to the office tomorrow. I'm going to watch the rest of it tonight. But yeah, once we're done with Bob's Burgers, I think we're going to go to Futurama. That show is really good.
Yeah, I've not watched any of the new ones. I'm waiting for my guys to catch up watching the old ones, and we're going to watch them together. And
Yeah.
it's I have mixed feelings about it because I really like how the whole story arc of Futurama ended. I was like, it was good, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want more episodes, but
Yeah.
I should give them a chance, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And with fantasy, like I said, like we're gonna set Lord of the Rings aside. We'll revisit maybe next year or two. But I was thinking for fantasy, I think, and since we have Disney Plus again, Dark Crystal.
Yeah, Dark Crystal.
I think that might be the way to go on that, because like as much as I like as much as I love Neverending Story as a kid, I'm like, that movie has not aged well. I think it has some good concepts. We might still watch it, but I think maybe the Dark Crystal might be where it's at.
Yeah, I go with the Dark Crystal.
82. Okay, so I saw the Dark Crystal in this cool little theater that was like local, and so I would have been 11 years old. And being that young, and it's only in hindsight, thinking back to the event, the girl I was sitting next to was totally hitting on me, and I didn't get it whatsoever. And it wasn't one of those things.
For Troy.
No, it's one of those things. Years later, I'm like, holy crap, she was like coming on to me, and I'm just like, yeah, it's a cool movie. Yeah, I like fantasy. Yeah, I like science fiction. Yeah,
is it a Stranger?
Stranger, yeah. And one of these is like, yeah, my granddad owns this movie theater. I'm like, that's really cool. I'm watching a movie. 11-year-old boys don't get it sometimes.
Boys don't get it.
That's my movie I need to make. Boys don't get it.
The boys don't get it. I was 18. I was at the arcade at Westminster Mall. The new Samurai Showdown game had come out, and I'd never seen it before. And I'm playing it, and this punk rock chick who I knew from high school. I knew her. We both were in the graduating class. And we're talking and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I catch you later. And it was only like later, like years later, I realized, oh, fuck. Boys don't get it. What's the Latin for boys don't get it?
I'm looking it up right now.
Do it. It's a motto.
Oops, do it this way.
Maybe if get it
probably,
is too colloquial, boys don't understand.
Our Geek Tank logo. Although the one from Ideas would be appropriate too. Like, where are we going to get a girl? Now that would also work.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw it on here so everybody can see it.
There you go.
Putting on a habitus.
Yeah, boys don't understand is pueri non intelligent. Which I think hits better.
Yeah, it does. Oh boy. Well, I do want to take. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, 41-year-old men don't get it. Also, yes, but they don't get it in the opposite way. I think most of the time.
Right.
Where young boys are kind of like, I'm dumb, and I didn't realize this girl was kind of into me, or this boy or whomever was kind of into me. I think most men, they don't get it in the other direction and engage in what Dan Savage calls dickful thinking.
Dickful thinking.
This person of my preferred gender is being nice to me. Obviously, they must want to sleep with me.
Right. Clearly, that is what
the barista or baristo.
I feel like that also is actually the same issue. Like, in the beginning, people talk to you and you're like, okay. And that's the way you probably ought to be approaching this.
Right.
And then you realize you made mistakes. Oh no, mistakes were made. And then you go, I must now assume every woman who is ever saying more than just get out of my face loves me.
Right? Yeah, mistakes were made. Machigayatte ne. The official words of my sword school. Mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made. Yes. Machigayatte ne.
Machigayatte ne.
Yeah. So before we signed off, I did want to take off the proverbial hat. A friend of mine passed away last week.
No.
He was Strahd in our game.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Holy shit!
I know he had tons of people that loved him. He went to a lot of rent fairs. He was known
What the
as
fuck
Pocket
happened?
Full. One of these freak things where he went to sleep and didn't wake up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know any full details, but he
Raise a
was on
fucking
a.
glass.
I know he was on our show, and so I'm gonna find that episode and do a memoriam thing and replay that at some point because
Yeah.
I know a lot of his friends didn't see it and probably would like to see that again,
Yeah,
see
put the
it for
word
the
out
first
for
time.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah, he like so as a player, he was amazing.
He
amazing.
was
He was
amazing to
not
all
only
of
was
us.
he so good in character and his costume and his use of props, but he also was phenomenal at rolling and improving, and also with the thing that many players don't do, going time. Is this where you're going with this? No, cool. Okay, time in. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
Right.
he's super seasoned as a GM and a role player. He ran like charity games for the LGBT community. It's a fantastic guy, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's just
Wow.
I'm glad that when I went back to Louisville last, I had the opportunity to hang out with him for a couple of days because
Nice.
it's good memories were made then.
Yeah. So, and before we sign off, and perhaps
Pardon me.
if he does, please put it like maybe we can post it next episode.
Yeah.
Is there a Patreon for like to help cover any costs or anything?
I don't think his previous partners put anything up yet. They're putting
Okay.
together all the arrangements and everything.
Okay.
If there is, I'll make sure to get that put up on there.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But yeah, raise a glass. There's
Raise a
an
glass.
empty seat
Pocket
at the
full.
table now.
Yeah,
Pocket the
indeed
full.
there is.
John Calgill. With that sad note,
Fair
we'll
weather.
send Guy off to do his thing.
Do the thing, guy.
I will do the thing. That is unfortunately the last thing we've got for today. Sadly.
Mhm.
Please join us next week. I've been Guy,
I've been Troy.
And I've been Alex.
and this is Geek Tank.